Hello everyone, this is Sandra Sherman from the beautiful city of Vienna, Austria. Today's video is all about movable chord shapes, also called bar chords. I'm using the CAGED system to structure the different chords. The goal is to always find the nearest chord and not having to jump across the fretboard. I'm going to also show you how to practice this. As the word CAGED system implies, we're using the C, A, G, E, and open D chord voicings. I'm providing all the chords we're going to learn in this lesson as a free PDF for you to download from our website. The link is down below in the description. All right, let's dig into the CAGED system. Most bar chords are derived from open chords, namely the C, A, G, E, and D chords. That's why it's called the CAGED system. C, A, G, E, and D. Now, if we want to move those chords up the fretboard to make them bar chords, we have to replace the open strings. The thing with the open strings is that, fortunately, this thing here, it's either white or black usually, called the nut, presses down the strings for us. Otherwise, we would have to play bar chords all the time and would not have any open chords at all. Now, to imagine what a bar chord will look like, press your finger, you don't actually have to press it, just put it here, your index finger on or behind the nut, just to imagine it, because it doesn't make any difference, you know, because we're not pressing on the first fret, just on a 0 fret, if you want so. And now play with your other fingers. Put your other fingers where you would have played your, let's say, E chord. Okay? So this is how the bar chord would look like, and then we can move it up the fretboard. And I'm going to show you exactly what the chords are called and where they come from, and let's start with the major chords. All right, let's start with the first chord, and that's the C chord. The open C chord, for those of you who do not know this chord, is 3rd fret of the A string, 2nd fret of the D string, and 1st fret of the B string. Ring, middle, and index finger. Okay? Now, if we want to move this up the fretboard to get a C sharp, for example, which we cannot play with open chords, we have to replace the open strings with our index finger and use the other fingers to fret the C chord. Okay, so we have the pinky on the 3rd fret, the ring finger on the 2nd of the D, and a middle on the 1st of the B string. Okay. Now, what's very important is where the root is. Otherwise, you cannot move this chord. You would not know where to move it. Our root in this case is here on the pinky. The pinky has the root. That's very unusual because usually we have our root on the index finger. So remember that we have the root on the pinky. So if we want to move this chord, let's say to a C sharp, we search for a C sharp on the A string. That's just 1 fret to the right. Here's the C sharp. And we play our C chord and have the index finger barring over the 1st fret. So we moved from C to C sharp, replacing the open strings. Okay? That's hard to play in the beginning, I know that. And there's not really a trick to it. Generally speaking, bar chords should be played with your left side of the finger. Don't play it straight, but push it to the left, okay? And have everything, all your ankles looking to the left, okay? So you get a better angle. If you're too straight, you're muting everything, okay? Now, our root is here, so please don't fret over to the 6th string. Actually, you can do that in this very case because there is the 3rd of the chord laying here, which sounds really beautifully. Okay? But actually the chord starts here on the root. So you can do that on purpose if you want to, but actually it starts here, okay? Let's move to the next chord shape. And the next chord shape is CAGED C-A, the A chord. This is second on the D, second on the G, and second on the B string. Our root is the A string. Now we have to replace the open strings with our index finger again and stretch to get an A chord with the rest of the fingers, middle ring and pinky. There is one fret not played, okay? So remember that, because most people tend to play it like this, and that's wrong. Okay, we don't fret the E string, only till the A string. Now, if we want to move it, let's say to a B flat. B flat is on the first string, or A sharp, you can also call it A sharp, and the rest moves along. Okay, so if 1, 3, 3, 3, 1. We touch, with our index finger, we touch the E string, because we want to mute it. We don't want to press it. You could press it, then you have the fifth in bass. That sounds really metal, heavy metal, okay? Usually we want to play from the root, okay? Now, the further up you get, it becomes really close, okay? This is really narrow here. So we almost can't fret anymore. So there's a trick. I usually don't play the A bar chord like this. I also hate playing with so many fingers, because then I don't have any finger left for all the funny stuff. So I play those three strings with my ring finger. I bar them. It's like a double bar, actually. I bar this here, and you have to kind of play like into the fretboard, concave, and your index plays the A string. Actually, now we cannot play the E string anymore. Okay, don't try to kind of put your bend your finger so much up that you're able to play the high E string. It is possible. I don't suggest it to you, because it doesn't. It's not good for your fingers. So we just play the inner fourth string. 1, 3, 3, 3. Or this, and then you can play those 5 strings. Okay? So if you get up there to, let's say, the F on the 8th string, it's a lot easier to play it like that as soon as you get used to playing the bar on the ring finger. That's not easy in the beginning, okay? But in the end, it's better than trying to put 3 fingers on one single fret, okay? That's really hard. So, okay? If you can do that, once you can do that, it's really easy actually. Just go bloop. And this is actually kind of an extended power chord, because the power chord is the first 3 strings and one more string, and you have the full major chord. Okay. All right, let's move to our next chord, CAGED, so it's G. And this one is a tough one, which we usually play a little different. So we have the G chord here. That's the 3rd of the E, the 2nd of the A, and the 3rd of the high E. Okay, you can play this like this, or it doesn't matter. Now we have a real far distance to our 0 fret, to our open strings, okay? Whoo, stretch, stretch, stretch. I'm gonna tell you something, we're not gonna play it like this, but just to imagine it, okay? The root is here on the E string, okay? The ring finger has the root. Let's say we want to move this to A flat. This is the next fret. Now you have to replace all this. Oops. Okay, I have really small fingers. For me, this is really tough to play. And a lot of people can't play this, and it's not necessary, because what we do is we can play only the inner 4 strings. Then we would have this one on the 3rd, first, first, first. This is an inversion. So I play this now not with my middle finger, I start with my ring finger and the index. Please don't press the index down to the high E string. That's not the correct note, because our correct note would be on the 4th string, which we don't play. So you put pressure on your index up to here, and the rest is dead. The high E string is dead. All right? Also, please try to touch with your ring finger your E string, because now we're not playing the E string anymore. So you just touch it way back on your on the tip of your finger. Okay? Thus, you touch the E string a little bit, just slightly. Don't press it. Okay? So now we have the 3rd, the 1st, the 1st, 1st. And now the root is not, well, it's still here, but we don't play it. So you need to imagine that it is here, okay? So you start 1 to the left. There's actually another root in this chord, and it's here. So if you know the G string very well, then you would know that this is an A flat root, an A flat note tone. Okay? So let's, for example, search for B. You can either now imagine a B on the E string and say, okay, I start 1 left to it on the A string. This is the B, and I start 1 left to it on the A string and have my voicing here. Or you directly find on the G string, by the way, that's why it's the G voicing, because the root is also on the G string. You find your B here on the G string, put your index here, ring finger here. So there's 2 ways to find that chord in reality, in real life. Okay. All right. Next chord is the E chord. I guess most of you guys know that chord. Middle finger on the 2nd, ring on the 2nd of the D, A, D string, and the G string on the 1st. You can play all the strings because the E is the root. E chord, E is the root. That's only logic, Spock would say. Okay, put your index finger on the nut. I guess most people know that chord. This is where root is, on the index finger of the E string. Let's search for a flat chord. So your index finger goes and searches the A flat. Here we find it. Press it down, and your other fingers place on the E chord. So this is an E chord on the 4th fret. Is called an A flat or G sharp chord. Okay. Okay. All right. And the last shape, oh, that's a toughie again. That's the D shape. We have an open D chord. That looks easy, but 2 to the left is the root, because D chord has a D root here. And now your other fingers stretch to get a D. There's also more ways to play this chord. I'm going to show you in a second. Now let's try to find an E. We move this D on the 0th fret on the open string. Here is an E. We have that one bar where we don't play anything. Try to not move your fingers together, because that's what a lot of people do, and you end up like this, okay? That's something else, okay? So there's one bar in between there. One empty bar. Fret, sorry, bar. One empty fret, I was gonna say. Okay. Now this is hard to fret. What you can do is, you have 2 chords in this actually, 2 parts. The first one is obviously the D shape, but then you're not allowed to play the E, A, and D string, because now you're not fretting the D anymore. So you would really have to put your index finger in a way that you touch the D string. Okay, the A string is hard. the A string, please don't play it with your right hand. There's no way to mute it with your left hand. You can mute the E string, you can mute the D string, but there's no way to do the A string. Maybe if you have a long thumb, okay? But it's uncomfortable. So just play in a very tiny fashion. That's kind of a U2 voicing. The Edge would play like that. Because it's very high. So many fruit flies here. Damn it. And the other thing, and it's very interesting in this shape, is this was the original shape. There is a power chord in here from the D string. Okay, this part, first, middle, and pinky have a power chord. So now I don't play the high E string, so I can make it a lot more comfortable by exchanging the middle for the index, for the ring finger. Now I have second on the D, fourth of the G, and fifth of the B, and that's a power chord. Doesn't look like one, right? Because usually they play it like this, but when you move it down to the D string, the B string is involved, and whenever the B string is involved, you need to stretch out one fret to the right, because this string is tuned differently, okay? Otherwise, that would sound strange. That's a major chord. Okay, a major 7th chord, that is, okay? So this is very helpful, because now you can play all your rock stuff, E power chord, and adding this, and you instantly get more high notes. All right, let's change over to the minor chords, and let's have a look at them. Our first shape in minor is the C minor shape. We had a C major shape before, which was here. And now all we have to do is to get a C minor shape is move the third of the chord, which is a major third, to a minor third. The major third of this chord is the E, and we change it over to an E flat, which is the minor third. And what we get now is this weird chord. Okay, all I changed was one note. You cannot play the open E strings here, because we cannot change them to E flat, okay? We don't have a -1 fret. So this would be an open C minor chord. Third of A, first of D, open G, and first of B. Okay, we want to move this. So we have to place our index finger on the nut, fret what we had before. This is a toughie, and I'm going to show you to play it easier, in an easier way. Okay, again, our root is the pinky on the A string. Okay, no E string, please. And we want to move this to E minor. Yep, search for an E on the A string. That's the 7th. Keep all the relations intact. Okay, we had nothing here, remember? Nothing here. And now we're on the 7th of the A, on the 5th of the D, on the 4th of the, G, and the 5th of the B. Okay. I know that's hard to fret. So we can split this chord. We can play only the first 3 tones. Okay, that would be 7, 5, 4, and we can have a nice kind of tacca chord playing here. When you mute the strings with your palm. That's nice. And you can play it the other way around, not playing the root here, but playing the top note again, which was the 5th. So we have 5, 4, 5. Now we don't have a root here. It was here. The thing is, we have another one here on top. So either you know the B string very well, and you know, okay, I want to move this to D minor. Here's a D. Okay, I want to move this to G. Here's a G. Okay. Or you just imagine the A strings. A lot of people know the A string better than the upper strings. So you imagine, okay, here would be the root, and I start 2 to the left on the D string, on the next string, okay? So if you search for G, here's the G, and 2 to the left on the next string, I start with my middle finger. There's always more than one solution and way to remember things. That's up to you. You just have to make kind of reference points when you don't have a root in the chord, or when the root is on a string that you do not know very well. Of course, you could learn that string. Learn the notes of those strings. Okay. So you split this chord. That's a nice inversion, actually. We have that on Snow Patrol's Run, for example. It's in A minor up here. Okay, let's go move to the next chord, CAGED. So A minor is the next thing to do. That's easy. I think most of you know that. Chord, first finger on the nut, and the rest play the A minor chord. So for those of you who do not know, this would be your ring finger on the second of D, second of G, and first of B. And your index frets up until the A string. No E string is played. Let's move this to B minor. That's very often used, even for simple songs. A, B flat, B. Here's the B. And touch with your index, touch the E string. You can play it. Then we have the fifth in bass. Again, that sounds like metal. You can play that if you want to, but usually it's played from the A string because that's where the root is. Okay, that was simple. Let's go to the next one. CAGED. Ooh, G1. That was our G major chord. Now we have a G minor chord. We have 2 thirds in there, and the chord and the third defines the chord. So if I need a minor chord, I need minor thirds in there. So I need to change the first one to a flat third. Plus I have one here on the B string, okay? I cannot change the open B string to a -1 fret. So what I do is I can play the G major chord differently. I can play it instead of the open B string, I could play it on the third. So this would also be a G chord. 3, 2, 0, 0, third, third. Now I only have to change one major third to the minor third. Now I have a G minor chord. Also very hard to fret, and I'm going to show you a way around this in a second. Now I do not have any fingers left to play my bar chord. So, but we need to imagine what it would look like, okay, to make an easier version for this. So let's take the help of our right hand for a second. Let's move this to, I don't know, B flat minor chord, okay? G, G sharp, A, B flat, okay? So this would be the B flat minor chord. This is still the same voicing plus one finger here. As you see, I cannot play that, but what I can do is I can play the inner 4 strings again, okay? Like we did on the G major shape before. I don't need this. Just remember that the root is here. This is where the root is, okay? But we start 2 frets to the left on the A string. Then I have the third and the third barred. And then I have the upper one, the B string on the 6th fret. I can't play the high E string because I don't have enough fingers, okay? So what this looks like is, here is the root, B flat 6th fret, I don't play that. I start 2 to the left on the next string with my middle finger. This is where I had my bar. So this bar is over the third, 4, 3, 3. And my pinky plays this one. Oh, I could actually play the high E string, but I usually don't do it. So I have 4, 3, 3, 4, and maybe this 4th too. But usually I don't do that. Usually I just mute it, okay? But you can play it, okay? And that's a very nice sounding chord. here is your imaginary or your virtual root. You have a real root here on the G string again, okay? So if you know the G string very well, you can move it, let's say to C minor. That's often used. Okay. You could, of course, also, let's go back to B flat minor. You could, of course, also use the lower 3 strings again, okay? Remember we had this shape. What was it like here? And just play the lower 3 strings. That would be root on the 6th for B flat, then the 4th and the 3rd. Okay, that was a tough one, I agree. Okay, now is a simple one, CAGED. Caged. E minor shape. I guess everyone knows that, right? For those who don't, that was the second of the second of the A string and the second of the D string. Okay, let's move it to G. We search for G, bar it, fret it, and place our E minor shape. 5th of A and 5th of D. By the way, I have or will have shortly out a video with all those embellishments, if you're interested in that, okay? All right, that was the E shape, E minor shape, sorry. Caged. So D is the last one, D minor shape. That's a D minor here. The root is on the, D string. So the D minor chord was 2nd of the G, 3rd of the B, and 1st of the E. I place all my other fingers here, except for the 1st, which I need. For this is not a bar chord, because I start on the D string, and all the rest of the strings are played, are fretted, so I don't need to press this down. Let's search for an E minor. D, D sharp, E, and the rest plays the D minor shape. Now I have an E minor. And it's nice to change this commonly used E minor shape with the D minor shape. Those are both E minor chords. A low E minor chord and a high E minor chord. So maybe you want to try change this because it's not so easy, okay? It's completely different. Okay, that was the system, and now I'm going to teach you how to practice this. So how do we practice this? Our goal is to find the nearest possible chord to make it sound really smooth and have more voicings available. Take one of your favorite songs and apply the thing that we just learned. I show you how. I'm going to choose a very common chord progression now to show this to you. The chord progression is C, A minor, F, G. I pick a region on the guitar that is not too close to the open voicings because we want to play bar chords, okay? So I choose the middle region right now, okay? I take my middle position, which is around 4th to 8th fret, plus minus 1 frets, and I search for a C because my first chord is going to be a C major chord. So I search for the note, the tone C on wherever I find it. I have one here, I have another one here. Okay, so what comes to mind is I have E string. That would give me two voicings. The E voicing, of course, on the E string, which would be to the right. So I'm too far away. I want to stay here. And the other one would be the G voicing. That's why I also have a G tone here. Because the G voicing, if you remember, had its root on the E string and the G string. Okay. So I can play the G voicing here, which we said we don't play the whole chord, but just the inner 4 strings. I imagine my C here, and I start 1 to the left and play the inner 4 strings. That would be 7, 5, 5, 5. And I mute, with my index finger, I mute the high E string. So that's an inversion actually of a C chord within the shape of G. So that's my first C chord. Next is an A minor. That's quite easy, I think, because this A smiles at me, and I have it on the E string, and the voicing on the E string to the right is the E minor voicing. So I fret here and play an E minor voicing, and because I'm on the 5th fret, I have an A minor chord now. So from C to A minor. Next is the F chord. So I'm searching for a tone F somewhere here, and I find one here on the A string. I have 2 chords on the A string, 2 voicings. The A minor voicing, the A voicing, which would be to the right. That's too far away, I want to go to the left. And to the left I have the C voicing, which also had its root on the A string, but goes to the left. So I start with my pinky on the root, play that C shape. The root is here on the 8th fret. Then I have the 7th of the D string, and then I have the 6th of the B string, and of course I have my index finger, which replaces the open strings. And I play from the A string, but as I said before, you can also play the E string, then you have the 3rd in the bass, which sounds pretty warm and nice. So for now we have a C, an A minor, and an F. See, from A minor to F, leave your finger on. And the last one would be a G chord. Okay, where do I have a G note somewhere, a G tone? Here is a G tone on the D string. So I need a D voicing, okay? And we're having a major chord, so I need a D major voicing, not the minor version. I move it to G, and here I have my ugly G chord, which I don't like playing like this. So I might just play the G power chord or the upper chord, or in this case you might prefer the regular G chord here on as an E shape voicing, because it sounds a lot fatter. So it's not always better to find the nearest chord, because this is really very high and very uncomfortable to play. Okay, please practice it this way, because it's important to know this chord too, because if you're a second guitarist, you might want to play those upper chords. If you never practice them, you will never know them. Okay, but in real life you would prefer this G probably. So this progression would be C, A minor, F, and then either this G or this G. Okay, I hope I was able to help you a little bit with this very important topic. If you liked the video, please like the video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I hope you tune in next time. Ciao!